Hello people, good morning, afternoon, and evening to you all. This is Rugged Savior today, and I will just start off bluntly by telling people something I've been holding off for quite a while. I'm sure some of you have already noticed it, but let's get to it. So, I am a furry. A what? What is that? What's he talking about? But no, seriously. I am a member of the furry community. Now, before I get into other details, let's present a quick overview explaining what furry culture is. And by the way, my explanations may not be as precise compared to other videos because they explain it more effectively in more detail. So if you wish to be more educated about furries in general, just check out some other videos should you need a better insight on the topic. So anyway, let's begin with a question. What are furries? So, furries are people on the internet who essentially condone themselves based on an alias they create, either online or in the form of their imagination or wearing a costume, and a combination of what I just previously said. So this specific alias of that character that I was mentioning earlier possesses animal traits and are also anthropomorphic. Basically, it's a way of saying they walk on two legs. I mean, if you've ever seen the movie Zootopia or any other Disney films, it's the same concept. So these characters are known as personas, and for those who create their persona, do so to partially escape the realities of our world. It's not so much different when you compare this to, say, World of Warcraft. When you play that specific video game, you become the entity and absorbed in a world that escapes your own. And the same goes even with the most simplest of qualities we possess. That is called imagination. I mean, we always envision ourselves as someone or something different. It's a basic and necessary trait, otherwise we would go nuts. I mean, who would not want to imagine themselves as, say, Iron Man when they're in the middle of a class and it's such a boring lecture, or in the middle of work and there's nothing really to do? Now, of course, there are going to be some people who are confused, afraid, and downright weirded out by the whole nature of what furries represent. And this confusion and fear alone will produce negativity in response. Now, people even bash the furry community with unwanted exaggerations by suggesting all furries are into bestiality because their character designs are revolved around animal features. Now, I can honestly say about the furry community is that yes, some furries can be weird, others can be offensive and toxic, but then again, you always see a few bad apples in every community you run into, especially the Call of Duty community. Excuse me. Anyway, so the majority of furries that I have met in person or not, basically of the people who I run into on the internet, have been quite polite, understanding, and they're just really awesome people once you get to know them. Now, to blatantly misjudge an entire community due to a lack of information or by what the few members do isn't good, because it just presents the issue of generalization. It's something we see beyond the topic that I'm currently discussing, and unsurprisingly enough, it hasn't changed much since our beginnings as a species. So with that explanation out of the way, how am I a furry and how did I get into the fandom? Well, to start off with the story, I was heavily into the fantasy genre when I was a kid. What solidified my interest within the fantasy genre were of external means like Dragonlance books, role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, but the most pivotal external source of all was the movie Dragonheart. I mean, that movie almost made me cry. But of all of that fantasy that I was into, the most common thing that ever occurred within that genre itself were dragons. The mythical creature of dragons themselves. I liked them so much when I was a middle schooler that when I was bored, I would often look up fantasy artwork based on those creatures, and every single time I browsed it amazed me. So many years later, let's fast forward a little bit to 2005. Now, I got a whiff of the furry fandom by a few friends because of this site called furaffinity.net. Now, at first, the idea of furries in general weirded me out, but that's just a normal reaction that quickly dissipated, because I am an open-minded individual. So after some time passed, I began to admire the artwork posted on the site, and I did so in secret, mainly because at the time I was in the Marines, and the surrounding environment meant that people finding out would result in constant berating insults. In a high-stress environment that's already pushing down on me, I don't need the extra weight to carry. It wasn't until 2012 when I finally decided to, you know what, I'm going to create an original character. And I based my designs on a few other inspirational pieces of art, but the overall character himself was original. So without further ado, let me introduce you to my character, Rugged. A few people have probably noticed why I use the dragon as my icon on Twitter, YouTube, and many other social media outlets. That's because he's my character, and to describe who he is, Rugged is an anthro dragon, as you can see right here. It's pretty obvious. In terms of his physical stature, he's an intimidating individual at first glance. I mean, he stands from head to toe at 7 feet 4 inches tall and weighs half a ton at 1,032 pounds. So whatever you do, don't let him hug you. I say don't let him hug you because, well... Now, Rugged mentally is a rather nice dragon, but sometimes he acts like an innocent child. He doesn't gloat or show off his strength, well, sometimes by accident. He acts like a derp quite often, impresses people with his immaculate puns. And most of all, he loves to stuff his face with food, mainly juicy stuffed crust pizza. However, like most dragons, he still has his true nature that can be exhibited at times. This is a very rare event, but when Rugged is pushed to the point where his eyes begin to glow, just run. Just get the hell out of Dodge. Cut your losses and just don't even get near him. Now, regarding the major influences that contributed to my character's creation, I guess Rugged was mostly a representation of myself. The physical strength represents my inner strength, specifically with my service in the military. And as far as mental attitude of the character himself, this is definitely who I am in person. I mean, I like to make jokes, deliver puns, I stuff my face from time to time. I know it's a bit goofy, but I cannot deny who I really am. As for the artwork you are currently seeing, I did not draw this character because I am not an artist. All I can do is draw stick figures. I mean, come on. So I employ other artists to draw my character for a price, and this is also known as commissioning for those who aren't unaware. Now, various artists have delivered their fantastic talents by drawing my character, and I'm extremely thankful to all of them. In conclusion, I was honestly a bit afraid to make this video, mainly due to the negativity I might get by revealing this fact. And to be honest, now that I think about it, it's kind of good knowing that weight is lifted. As for others who watch my video and follow me on Twitter or Twitch, I have to say this. Don't be afraid to admit who you are. Yes, the fear will exist and some will take longer to overcome it, but when it comes down to it, at least you had the integrity and courage to be who you are and never let people negatively judge you based on what you're interested in. So I hope everyone enjoyed this video. I know it's a little weird, might be a little awkward for some, but please, give me a comment regarding what your feelings are into this subject matter, or leave a comment even on Twitter. So thank you for watching, and have a good day, everybody.